Now we're going to talk about visionary experience, which is one of the hallmarks of shamanic practice. And again, if you'll remember from our last talk in this series, we talked about the way in which shamanic practice is actually based on a shaman's ability to move across what we normally think of as ordinary awareness into what we think of as non-ordinary awareness. And these terms, ordinary awareness and non-ordinary awareness, were coined by Carlos Castaneda, who wrote many books on shamanic practice, which may be of interest to you. And when we understand that what shamanic practice does is weaken the boundary that we normally put down between what we think of as our conscious mind experience and what we think of as experience that doesn't really belong in our conscious mind world, then we begin to really understand the essence of shamanic practice. So visions may come unbidden, they may be completely spontaneous, or they can be cultivated through something like a vision quest. And we're going to be talking about the vision quests in one of our next programs. But here we're looking at the visionary experience, which is a result of the spirit world stepping into ordinary reality. The conscious mind perspective is overwhelmed by the information that is usually held in other parts of the person's experience as the vision comes on. And often visions provide information about future or important information about the future, or important information about the person who has the vision or the group of people that the person may be living with or of which they are a part. Like those who have powerful dreams, those who have powerful visions are often recognized as potential shamanic initiates by the older shamans in a traditional culture where they may have, or a traditional setting where someone may begin to have visionary experiences. And the visions that we're speaking about here may not be dissimilar to visions that might emerge as a result of ingesting psychotropic plants, but they are not a result of the ingestion of any type of substance. And I'd like to recount to you a vision that was had by Black Elk, who is an Oglala Sioux, which is a group of people from the plains of North America. And he had this vision when he was quite young. And it was indeed an experience that did gain the attention of the older shamans of the tribe. And he became not only a shamanic practitioner, but also a leader in a political sphere. And he lived around the time of the demise of his people, the sort of last stand against the Europeans who completely destroyed their way of life. And it was a very difficult time, of course, for anyone to live through. And the visions that he had as a result of living in these times, or perhaps not as a result, but in relation to these times that he had, were really quite prophetic and important in nature. And the first vision that he ever had was when he was 9 years old. He says, "It was the summer when I was 9, and our people were moving slowly towards the Rocky Mountains. We camped one evening in a valley beside a little creek just before it ran into the greasy grass. And there was a man by the name of Manhip who liked me and asked me to eat with him in his teepee. While I was eating, a voice came to me and said, 'It is time. Now they are calling you.' The voice was so loud and so clear that I believed it, and I thought I would just go to where it wanted me to go. So I got right up and started. As I came out of the teepee, my thighs began to hurt, and suddenly it was like waking up from a dream, and there wasn't any voice. And so I went back into the teepee, but I didn't want to eat. Manhip looked at me in a strange way and asked me what was wrong. I told him that my legs were hurting me. And he goes on to describe this feeling of being sick. And while he was in this sickness, he had another clear vision. He said, "Hurry." He said he heard the voice say to him again, "Hurry, come, your grandfathers are calling you." And so he got up and he left the ground, and it was like, he said it was like arrows slanting upward from the ground as he tried to walk. And then he rested, and again he heard the voice, "Hurry, come, your grandfathers are calling you." And then he was able to get up, and he went outside where the teepee was, and then he had, outside of where the teepee was, and he had a very detailed vision of healing his people, and that healing became the guiding principle of his life. And it's not unusual for people who have visions to be changed by them. And often people's life circumstances will change drastically as a result of a vision. And this was, this became his principle for his life. And although he became a warrior and engaged in warfare, his focus was on trying to create healing for his people and to become a leader and a healer for his people. And it was all a result of that vision that he had when he was so young, this vision of the grandfathers coming to him and, making him ill in a way, so that they could kind of, so that he would be in an altered state of awareness for a while and be able to receive the information that eventually became the guiding star of his life. And, it's this visionary capacity is not uncommon even today. I've had many students who actually came into the practice of shamanic work because they were trying to understand these visionary experiences. And of course, in this culture, there's very little context for understanding visionary experience, and certainly very little understanding that the visionary experience may be a call to some kind of path in understanding the world of spirit. And, I think that, of course, some people who are hearing voices or seeing things that don't actually exist in non-ordinary reality, may be having some kind of experience that is out of balance. But as often, people who have these spontaneous visions can really begin to explore them and see where they might take them and understand that this kind of visionary experience is something that has called shamans to the path for many, many centuries. And I think that if we can have a measured kind of thought about what these visions might offer us, we might learn that we have skills or capacities beyond what we might have imagined. And so it's important to consider these possibilities. I've had, as I say, many students. I remember one in particular who she had visions and auditory experience of her ancestors that had gone beyond, had passed on. And they all kind of came and had conversations through her and gave important information to the family about the location of certain things that had been lost, and tried to provide advice about how to solve problems. And some of her family members thought she was crazy until they were looking for a key that had been lost, this chest that had been in the family for years, and no one could find this key. And she had a vision where one of her distant cousins came to her and told her where the key was. And so she told her brother where it was, and he looked for it, and and found it and opened the chest. So there was some belief there within the family that maybe she wasn't crazy. And when she came to talk to me about her issues, because she was afraid she was crazy, when we sat down with this, and when I gave her the context in shamanic practice for this kind of vision, she felt relieved, and she really began to step into her psychic powers at that point. And she's truly one of the most psychic people I've ever met. I've had so many students that are so much more psychic than I am. But I've been able to help them organize their gifts, and that's always been a great pleasure for me.